Smartwatches are expensive. I mean, think about it. You've already paid a lot for your phone, and then you're expected to spend hundreds more to get a smartwatch where half of the functions are still tied to that phone. It's kind of ridiculous, which is why I'm excited that CMF, a budget brand from Nothing, the guys who made the Nothing phone, have come out with a budget smartwatch, a Watch Pro 2. There was a first version, but it never saw release in North America, and they're coming back strong with a bit of a different look. I mean, probably pretty generic when it comes to, watches, but compared to the square Apple Watch-esque look of their previous model, I like the look of this a lot more. And inside, they don't really have much else other than a charger with USB-A. Okay. Sure, and it also has a magnetic charger with pogo pins that attaches to the bottom there. Already, I wish this was like a cradle, kind of like the Pixel Watch, where you can just kind of place your watch in there in almost any orientation. This requires you to not only make sure that you have this facing the right way, but also the watch. The wire has to come out of the left side, or else it's not gonna connect properly. Hopefully you won't have to charge it very often because they're claiming up to 9 days of heavy use. What heavy use constitutes, I'm not sure. It comes with a silicone strap, which is pretty sporty, but it does come with other strap options. One thing I already like is that it's using a standard mount for the strap. The frame itself is made with an aluminum alloy and comes with a nice little crown. The red dot on the crown is very reminiscent of other Nothing branded kind of stuff. As well as on the bezel, you can see the dot matrix kind of font for the CMF thing and by Nothing. I think that's a nice little detail. On the back, we have a bunch of biometric sensors. I think they're mostly focused around heart rate and SpO2. We have a speaker in here, some microphones. You can take calls on this. And one cool thing about this is that the bezel is replaceable like that. CMF is planning to offer a few different varieties. Your bezel's likely to get scuffed because it is kind of supposed to protect the screen. So if it gets, scraped or stuff, you can still have a clean looking watch. Speaking of the screen, it is a 1.32 inch AMOLED display with a resolution of 466 by 466, and it can get up to 620 nits of peak brightness, which is pretty good. Just kind of looking side by side with my Pixel Watch, which I really like the size of. I don't have particularly large wrists. It is a little bit taller, a couple millimeters taller, but not so bad. It's not so bulky. I think that the hard edges make it look a little bit bigger compared to say something like the massive Apple Watch Ultra, which just looks gigantic on a lot of different arms. I'm not a huge fan of the placement of the crown. It's a little close to the lugs, I guess is what they're called, which means that if you have bigger fingers, it's kind of tricky to get multiple fingers in there if you really need to spin. There is haptic feedback when I scroll through this list, and it feels very good. It feels very cheap, and there's also kind of a cheap rattly noise. It just sounds, it's not very robust. And now that we've covered everything on the outside, let's talk about the software that's on the inside after this message from our sponsor.
Thanks to Epomaker for sponsoring today's video. Their Galaxy 80, designed in collaboration with FEKER, is a premium TKL mechanical keyboard without the premium price. It combines a full aluminum alloy shell, ergonomically curved keycaps, and a whole slew of foam and padding to bring a full-blown sensory experience when typing. And of course, it still has the awesome features you'd expect, like a hot swappable PCB, south-facing RGB, and options for wired and wireless connections. Check them out at the link in the description down below.
Take a look at that. That's the default watch face. On it, you can see the outdoor temperature, steps, calories. One thing I wish is that these were actually buttons to get to different widgets. I wish I could go to my pedometer app or my weather app or my clock app. However, it seems that I have to press the crown to navigate to the menu and then navigate to that app. From my understanding, they have a custom operating system, but it seems very similar to Wear OS, which is great because I like Wear OS. We have quick settings at the top. We have notifications if we swipe up. We can go to widgets on the sides and stuff like that. One thing I do notice is that you can see that the bezels, even though they have this nice bezel that you remove, you don't actually go all the way to the edge with the screen on the inside. I kind of wish that because they had the option of making this little bezel go over top, that we didn't have to have this big extra bezel on the bottom, And they got a ton of watch faces, apparently 100 of them. Multifunction, this looks like my kind of thing. I like seeing all of my info in one quick go. We've heard from owners of their last watch that the app can tend to be a little bit buggy, but so far it looks okay. One thing you should note is that since this isn't a Wear OS watch, There's no extra apps that you can download. If you say have a specific app that you want to use, like I like using say Strava, you are stuck with whatever CMF gives you. However, this does have integration with Strava as well as Apple Health and Health Connect, which will allow you to kind of transfer the data from this to pretty much any other app in the Health Connect ecosystem. So stuff like Fitbit or a lot of dieting apps like MyFitnessPal. Basically, that's kind of the API that you can send everything to and get your data between whatever apps you want to use. One thing that I care about is actually heart rate detection. I have atrial fibrillation, which means my heart doesn't really beat properly all the time. When I'm having an episode with AFib, I like to be able to track it on my watch because then I can send it to my doctor and we can keep track of exactly what kind of rhythms are happening. This is not rated by the FDA to track AFib, but it does have arrhythmia notification. So if it senses an irregular heartbeat, it will note it. Honestly, it's a pretty robust app. Run tracking, GPS, all of that stuff. GPS on device, by the way, not through your phone. You don't need to run with your phone to track GPS. But let's quickly go through a lot of the other features they have. They have 120 different exercise modes, including jet skiing, the one that I'm always doing. It's IP68 water resistant, which isn't quite good enough for say like swimming. They have like a smart movement algorithm that they claim can measure the effectiveness, training load, and recovery time. I could see maybe recovery time if they're just kind of gauging by your heart rate, but any sort of motion tracking that I've done on smartwatches in the past, in terms of like working out at the gym, they don't really help you at all. But all of that stuff comes in at a price of $69, which is great, honestly. That's cheaper than any Fitbit. You're like competing with like a lot of the Chinese brands like TicWatch or Amazfit. And I think you're getting a pretty solid experience, and you're going to be backed by a company that's a little bit more familiar in the Western territories now. I would need to spend a little bit more time to make sure that all of the apps that are default work smoothly, but this is kind of what I want. I don't need a do everything smartwatch. I want something that can give me notifications, that can track my fitness, and this does everything, and it does it just so much cheaper than other major brands, and it makes me wonder why these other brands aren't even trying to make something good at this price point. I think they did a great job. Thanks for watching this short circuit. If you like this video, why don't you learn about a more premium offering, the Pixel Watch 2. James did a great job on that video. I'm so proud of him.